What outdated or obsolete tech are you still using and are perfectly happy with? Story 1. Adobe CS4. Screw the monthly subscriptions. Recommend. I still have CS6 in a Mad Max Last of the V8S style. It has more functionality than I can ever use. Some of those sweet AI fills and removal tools look great in the new subscription versions, but it's my firm belief that none of them actually work properly, so I am not missing out. Story 2. Physical buttons. Not everything needs to be touchscreen for goodness sake. Recommend. I feel like it's safer to have car radios that have buttons instead of screens. It's easier for me to push a button to change the music while keeping my eyes on the road. I can't do that if my car has a screen. It increases distracted driving incidents. Story 3. 25-year-old Honda Accord with a manual transmission. Recommend. 23-year-old 4-sill auto Accord here. Drove it off the showroom floor in April of 2000. Knock on wood, the damn thing just will not die, and I've never done anything to it beyond basic maintenance. It's got hail damage, the paint is fading, new rattles pop up every day, and everyone keeps asking me when I'm going to get rid of it, but at this point, I'm just too curious to see what finally kills it. Story 4. I own my music. I have 100s of CDs, so I still use my CD player and MP3 player. And to be honest, I still have about 150 vinyl albums I play on occasion. Recommend. Growing up in the 90s, I developed a large CD collection and have them all in one of those Case Logic CD binders. I still keep it with me in my car, and it's a wonderful trip down memory lane every time I open it. I laughed and cried a little when my kid's friend asked me what it was, and I said, CD. And they followed up with, what's that? Story 5. Watches that only tell the time. Maybe the date too. Recommend. I've had the same G-Shock watch for 12 years so far. Changed the battery twice, and the band once, but everything else works just fine. I've dived in it to below the recommended depth, it's been crushed, stepped on, left on a hot stove, I've worn it through multiple fights, etc. Keeps on working just fine. My co-workers need to replace their smartwatch frequently. Story 6. My Zune. I still use it. Recommend. Yo, I forgot the Zune even existed. I have a story about a Zune. In college, I think I was a sophomore, I found a Zune on the ground. I was, still kinda am, an avid Apple fangirl, so I thought it was radioactive, so I was not about to do anything shady with it. I made found Zune posters and put those suckers everywhere on campus. The cool part was that I was able to navigate it easily and find out who owned it. It helped me verify the owner when he contacted me. The kid who owned it is still a Facebook friend many years later. Story 7. I ordered a charger for my old DS Lite, came out 2006 last week, and damn did I miss it. The DS Age of Empires, old Pokemon games, I'm having a blast. Recommend. DS Lite was peak Nintendo handheld IMO. I collect pink Nintendo handhelds, so I have 2 of them. I bought one, Coral Pink, in 2007 with my first paycheck, and I bought the other, Metallic Rose or whatever, in 2012 when I worked at GameStop. They both still play like they're brand new. And I love the GBA slot, so I could still play my faves like Golden Sun and do the trade from Gen 3 to Gen 4 in Pokemon. Story 8. My Sega Genesis and PlayStation 2 Slim are still plugging along fine and still are fun. Recommend. I have all the PlayStations, but if I were trapped on an island with only one console, PS2 would be it. So many great games that beat the shit out of what we get today, plus compatibility with the vast majority of the PS1's amazing library. Don't forget to tape down the laser ribbon cable if you haven't already. Over the years, they're starting to stick up and scratch discs. Story 9. I am still transferring MP3s I downloaded from the internet to my phone. I tried Spotify Premium for a year, was not satisfied, and many old songs I like are not available. But by manually downloading FLAC MP3 or so, I can get many unusual things like my country's flag carrier playlist, remastered bass boosted, remixes, covers, etc. Recommend. LOL. I do subscribe to Spotify and use it often, but regardless, every new phone I get gets the same 646 MP3s that I've been transferring over and over for almost a decade. Some songs just aren't available on Spotify, and some songs you want to listen to, but not have Spotify know you listen to, so it doesn't mess up the algorithm, like the Buffy Once More with Feeling soundtrack. Story 10. Physical media in general, DVDs, CDs, video games, books, etc. Yeah, it adds to clutter, but most digital services have it in their terms of service that they can remove content, even paid for, at any time, with no refund to you. You're basically paying a float rate to rent it until they can no longer rent it. Come try to remove the physical stuff. It's a felony in most states, and you can have my Buckaroo Banzai Blu-ray when you pry it from my cold and dead fingers. Recommend. Agree. Which is why I have a decent library of 500 plus Dead Tree version books. On top of the fact that the publisher can revise or remove content from digital books anytime they please, there are so many errors in digitally converted older books. My Kindle these days is only used to check out ebooks from the library if I don't want to own them. Story 11, PSP. Recommend. The PSP was released at such a good time. I think a lot of people don't realize how crazy it was to have a portable device to watch movies on, listen to music, and play games on back then. It was released slightly before smartphones became ubiquitous, and all of this was taken for granted. It had a great screen too, although I'm pretty sure mine was extremely scratched up before I retired it. Tack on being able to mod it, which was very easy to do back in the day, you could run PS1 games natively on it as well as a bunch of homebrew software like emulators that ran older console games basically perfectly. It was similar to the original Xbox and how easy it was to soft mod it. Basically became an insane home media player that you could play video files on, and an emulator system. Story 12. Wired earphones. Cheap, don't have to charge, don't need to worry about losing them, bring 3.5 back for phones, damn it. Recommend. Yep, market is saturated with BT buds, and I've tried several. There's something wrong with every model I've tried. Either uncomfortable, drops connection, poor microphones, crap noise cancelling, crap battery. Recently got a phone with 3 5mm headphone jack, immediately bought some wired buds. Zero issues. I'm looking after this phone like it's my second-born child. Story 13. Some things don't need to be smart when the regular push-button or knob version works fine. Simpler and less things that could go wrong. Like kitchen appliances. A kitchen faucet doesn't need voice commands. My air fryer doesn't need Wi-Fi connection so I can control it from an app. Recommend. Somewhat related. I named my PC Space Heater, sort of a tongue-in-cheek reference to the fact that it runs kinda hot and warms the whole room it's in. I need to redo the thermals in it. One day, I turn it on, and it absolutely will not connect to the internet. Laptop, consoles, everything else work fine. Days of troubleshooting later, I was prepared to reinstall Windows because I had tried literally everything. I mentioned it to my dad one day, thinking maybe he could come up with a solution. Long story short, he saw the name, though the actual space heater in the basement had become sentient and blocked it from the network. He thought it was hilarious. Story 14. 1996 Chevy Blazer that's nearly at 200,000. It's not perfect. Needs a muffler, radio sucks. It has a very small gas leak from on top of the gas tank. We the fuel pump seats, rear window defrost and wipers don't work. And the rear hatch window is missing the piston arms. And it has a constant evap sensor code because of the gas leak. And the tires have a slow air leak. But it's a beast that powers through Midwestern winters with the 4.3L Vortec engine, and it's paid for. Story 15. On the farm, we still use some old equipment like a 1952 Ford tractor and a ride-on sickle mower for cutting down tall weeds. I plant a couple rows of sweet corn next to the regular corn, so when I plant that corn, I use an old 2-row planter that's probably 100 years old. Still works great for planting 600 feet of corn. Both pieces of equipment were meant to be pulled by horses or tractors. We just use a garden tractor.